Jaya Dha Madhava Kunja Vihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Prajajanjana. Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana. Yamunatiravanachari. Yamunatiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare. Yashodanandana Prajajanjana. Yashodanandana Prajajanjana. Yamunatiravanachari. Yamunatiravanachari. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe. Prabhu Prabhu Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So, I'd like to greet the devotees online. Special welcome to Priya Manjari, the sister of our recent bride of the community, Sachi Priya Devi. Okay, so I think was it 5, 7, 11 yesterday? Not sure. Okay. See, yeah, because I don't see. I think it was 5, 7, 11 yesterday. Yeah. Okay. So we're reading reading from Canto 5, The Creative Impetus, Chapter 7, The Activities of King Bharat, Text 12. I think that's it. Okay. 5, 7, 12. So it's in prose, so I'll just read the Sanskrit and then we can do the word for word together. Tayetam avirata purusha paricharyaya bhagavati pravardhamana nuraga bharat vrita ridhaya saitilya praharsha veganatmanyu udbhidyamana roma pulaka kulaka outkontya pravritta pranaya bashpa nirudha valoka nayana evang nija ramanaruna sharanara vinda nudhyana parichita bhakti yogena paripluta paramahada gambira ridhaya radhava gadha ishanas tam api kriyamanam bhagavat saparyam na sangsara daya. By that, itam, in this manner, avirata, constant, purusha, of the Supreme Lord, paricharyaya, by service, bhagavati, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, pravardhamana, constantly increasing, anuraga, of attachment, ara, by the Lord, ruta, ruta, melted, hridaya, heart, saitilyaha, laxity, raharsha, vegena, by the force of transcendental ecstasy, atmani, in his body, udbhidyamana roma pulaka kulakaha. Okay, you don't have to repeat that one. Standing of the hair on end. Utkantya, because of intense longing. Pravrita, produced. Pranaya, Bashpa, Nirudha, Avaloka, Nayanaha, awakening of tears of love in the eyes, obstructing the vision. Evam, thus, Nijaramana, Arunacharana, Aravinda, on the Lord's reddish lotus feet. Anudhyana, by meditating. Parichita, increased. Bhakti yogena, by dint of devotional service. Paripluta, spreading everywhere. Parama, highest. Ahlada, of spiritual bliss. Gambhira, very deep. Hridaya, Radha, in the heart, which is compared to a lake. Excuse me. Avagadha, immersed. Vishanaha, whose intelligence. that api, although kriyamanam, executing, bhagavat, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saparyam, the worship, na, not, sasmara, remembered. Translation: that most exalted devotee, Maharaj Bharata, in this way engaged constantly in the devotional service of the Lord. Naturally, his love for Vasudeva, Krishna, increased more and more and melted his heart. Consequently, he gradually lost all attachment for regulative duties. The hairs of his body stood on end, and all the ecstatic bodily symptoms were manifest. Tears flowed from his eyes, so much so that he could not see anything. Thus, he constantly melted. Sorry. Thus, he constantly meditated on the reddish lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, his heart, which was like a lake, was filled with the water of ecstatic love. When his mind was immersed in that lake, he even forgot the regulative service to the Lord. Please repeat. That most exalted devotee, Maharaj Bharata, in this way engaged constantly in the devotional service of the Lord. Naturally, his love for Vasudeva, Krishna, increased more and more and melted his heart. Consequently, he gradually lost all attachment for regulative duties. The hairs of his body stood on end, and all the ecstatic bodily symptoms were manifest. Tears flowed from his eyes, so much so that he could not see anything. Thus he constantly meditated on the reddish lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, his heart, which was like a lake, was filled with the water of ecstatic love. When his mind was immersed in that lake, he even forgot the regulative service to the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When one is actually advanced in ecstatic love for Krishna, 8 transcendental blissful symptoms are manifest in the body. Those are the symptoms of perfection arising from loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since Maharaj Bharat was constantly engaged in devotional service, all the symptoms of ecstatic love were manifest in his body. That most exalted devotee Maharaj Bharat in this way engaged constantly in the devotional service of the Lord. Naturally, his love for Vasudeva, Krishna, increased more and more and melted his heart. Consequently, he gradually lost all attachment for regulative duties. The hairs of his body stood on end, and all the ecstatic bodily symptoms were manifest. Tears flowed from his eyes, so much so that he could not see anything. Thus, he constantly meditated on the reddish lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, his heart, which was like a lake, was filled with the water of ecstatic love. When his mind was immersed in that lake, he even forgot the regulative service to the Lord. Om Gyana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshu Unurtangina Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhutale Shmati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Srinavadi Paschatya Deshatari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gauravaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I have to admit, the subject matter of the higher stages of devotional service, I am not so learned. I guess my emphasis has been more on Sankhya, trying to understand the material energy. So I don't know if anyone knows the ecstatic symptoms of by heart. Do you know them, Prabhu? Okay. Well, let's search for them. So this is not going to be a an eloquent class to inspire your heart. But it's going to be one of learning for all of us, especially me. So I think I'll just search for it on database.com. Let's see, can pull them up. Do you know a pastime of Lord Chaitanya where he showed all 8 ecstatic bodily symptoms from CC? I remember specifically that the word Gambhir spelled faster because in the translation, the word Gambhir is very deep. His last pastimes, his room was called the Gambhir, and he showed very deep pastimes in there. He exhibited all these symptoms and large, but those aren't the 8 standard bodily symptoms though. Like because sometimes, yeah, sometimes even his limbs would retract into his body, and sometimes like the joints, they would, um, yeah, they would basically lose all their stiffness. Um, so I've heard of those symptoms of Lord Chaitanya, but those are like Mahabhava, which are like very, very rare. Only the Supreme Personality of God can actually manifest those. But it seems like these ones, even a living entity like King Bharat can manifest them. I think, yeah, maybe that's why you can't experience primarily as well because you actually your body. Yeah. So you need to actually go to it. Okay. I think I found it. Here we go. Uh, the 8 ecstatic symptoms are the state of being stunned, perspiration, standing of the bodily hairs on end, faltering of the voice, trembling, fading of the body's color, tears, devastation. So that's 8, yeah. So stunned, 1, perspiration, 2, standing of the bodily hairs on end, 3, faltering of the voice, 4, trembling, 5, fading of the body's color, 6, tears, and devastation. That's 8. Okay, so if we are to remember that, if we are to remember anything from this class, I think we should be able to recite these 8 symptoms. There's like a memorization technique, which is quite useful, where you can use your body or you can just use any place that's familiar to you. And basically you create different images. So for example, like, the ashram building. So say if you want to memorize like 20 verses, you just create an image in each room. Um, this list is like 8, so it's fairly simple. So you can use your body, the joints of your body, beginning from your feet, your calves, knees, etc. So here, for example, being stunned, you can remember somebody being stunned, but it has to like evoke emotion, the image, so that you can actually remember. So yeah, so you can try that to actually, remember this. But it seems like these 8 ecstatic symptoms are actually familiar to all of us. If you're still practicing Krishna consciousness after, 5 years, 10 years, you have to have experienced this, especially in the kirtan before Lord Jagannath, uh, during Rath Yatra, etc. So, for example, perspiration. I think everybody's perspired in the kirtan. That's pretty common. Standing of the bodily hairs on end. Um, Maybe not like, when I don't know if you ever played with Van der Graaf generator in high school. So there's this that device that basically it produces electrical arcs, right? So if you hold on to it, so through static electricity. So if you hold on to it, then literally, even somebody with long flowing hair, like their hair begins to stand. Yeah, through that. Yeah, like yeah, so persons have seen this. So it would appear that chanting of the holy name creates like it's basically like electricity. It functions that way. So it's pretty apt because, this example of being connected to the original powerhouse, Krishna, where, yes, electricity can be used for multiple purposes, but from Krishna's point of view, electricity is just electricity. So his energy is energy. So spiritual energy, material energy, it can act in either way. And so we see also in the example of very advanced devotees who have spiritual vision that even material objects become actually stimulants for ecstatic love. So Lord Chaitanya mistaking the sand dune as Govardhan Hill, mistaken the ocean as the Yamuna River. Um, so these are called udipans or stimulants for ecstatic love. Here in Gita Nagari, we get the experience of peacocks being stimulated by loud sounds. So for them, it sounds like thunder. So when it's about to rain, it's going to start raining tomorrow. You'll see how they just like run around and they just like screaming, and they dip their necks and like this and they're just running. So it seems like they're like dancing. And I guess the ontological explanation is that rain reminds them, or thunder, it looks like Krishna. Krishna's bodily complexion is described by Lord Brahma as Asitambuddha, as like blackish, bluish, like a rain cloud. And so loud sound seems to stimulate the remembrance of Krishna in peacocks. At least this is the ontological explanation from the Shastras. Nobody has done a research project to see what exactly they're thinking about. But if you would like to determine it, maybe you could develop a mystic power where you could actually not even develop a mystic power, but like King Bharat, who's going to become a deer, uh, he will have the ability to remember his past lives. So suppose you become a peacock here at Gitanagri, and then you can tell us, transmigrating to a body of a peacock, and then you transmigrate out, then you can tell us what it was like. That why is it that loud sounds caused you to dance in the body of a peacock? So that would be interesting. Um, yeah, so standing of the bodily hairs on end. Um, I don't know. I've seen, I think, yeah, in Kirtan, while dancing in Kirtan, like, I think it was in the beginning years. With one guy, he had his forearms and he was showing me, he's like, look, look, look. And so his hairs were, you know, they weren't like flat on his body, but they were actually standing up. So persons who have significant hair on their forearms, they probably have experienced this. Faltering of the voice, this is also common um, as well, where, yes, you are trying to chant the mantra, but it's very difficult because as you are chanting, uh, you're feeling such exhilaration that you can't chant anymore. Because when you try to utter another syllable, the emotion gushes out and you're being very self-conscious, and so you're trying to control yourself. And so this has also been observed. You might also have experienced this. Trembling as well. You'll see it in really, yeah, just static kirtans or even devotees who are chanting, leading the kirtan. You'll see. If you look, as they're holding the mic, you'll see their hands also trembling. My one friend, he was telling me in South Africa where I think they were having a conference, a BBT conference in Mauritius. And so it was his first experience with, our spiritual master, His Holiness David Nitya Maharaj. And so he was telling me that, yeah, your Guru Maharaj was leading a kirtan there. And yeah, he just saw how he was trembling. Uh, his hands were just trembling. He was so into the kirtan. And so he was greatly, that created a real impression on him. Yeah, and so it really inspired him to go deeper in his chanting. Fading of the body's color. Um, well, yeah, I haven't seen this vividly, but yeah, persons who are fair-skinned, um, typically they'll become reddish. But yeah, I haven't seen this. But Lord Chaitanya exhibited it greatly, and he exhibited it like both ways. So his body becoming, yeah, darker when he absorbed the simple reactions from Jaga and Madai, and then when he started to chant, the reactions were being dissipated, and so his natural bodily hue uh, was restored. Tears, yes, a lot of devotees have cried in the kirtan. Devastation. So this one is quite rare. Um, it's like the sustained, yeah, if you're really absorbed and yeah, you just might find the last verse of the Shikshastakam as being very applicable to how you are feeling. Ashlishya vapada patampinashtumam adarshanan marma hotu arotuva. So this is Lord Chaitanya, expressing this devastation in the mood of Srimati Radharani that Krishna, you can embrace me or handle me roughly, it actually doesn't matter. So this is this feeling of devastation. One may feel great separation from the chanting after a really ecstatic kirtan, and you may feel great separation from that experience, from the devotees, from Krishna's presence in the kirtan. And so this ecstatic, this bodily symptom um, manifests. So yeah, so in terms of committing to memory these 8 ecstatic symptoms, you can try to reflect on your life in Krishna consciousness, how you were stunned, you might have not been able, you were chanting, but then you stopped chanting, you just couldn't continue because of the impact of the holy name. How you perspired, you might have planned to go on the altar, but you couldn't because you had to go and take a shower because you were just drenched in sweat. How the electricity of the holy name was flowing through you, so much so that your hair was standing on end. How you might have not been able to utter the syllable again, or each syllable that you are uttering, it was causing you to cry. How you might have trembled, or how you might have seen the color, bodily color on a devotee's face fade, or how you might have not being able, yeah, you know, you just couldn't stop crying. I remember, I won't mention the devotee's name in our community. It was Lord Nityananda's appearance. And so basically, this devotee, he organized a really great festival in Africa. And he was telling me how difficult it was. So it was organizing a very big gathering of devotees. It was a very intense yagya. It was like over 2 weeks. So conference was there, and there was Rath Yatra and all these meetings. So almost like the devotees who've been to the famous Bhakti Sangam festival in Eastern Europe, almost like that, but not as many devotees. But just a very extensive yagya that he had to organize. So he was really absorbed in that service, and so um, he was raised he got Krishna consciousness as a little child, and so every time he chants Lord Nityananda's name, he gets very, very emotional. And I remember one time when I saw him, and it was Lord Nityananda. Yeah, he couldn't control himself. He became very, very emotional. And one of the mothers had to help him calm down. So, so you might have, seen a devotee who there's a specific uh, trigger. It's like everybody has their buttons, the buttons where you get triggered to anger. But, you might have seen that for some devotees, they have they're attracted to a specific quality of the Lord. So in this case, being attracted to the magnanimity of Lord Nityananda's, his mercy, how merciful he is. Like one of my favorite prayers to that are in the Bhagavatam, it's a verse describing Lord Ramachandra about how um, so Shukadev Goswami is describing that even monkeys could secure the friendship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How merciful the Lord is. That even though you are in a subhuman or non-human body, still you are able to secure the friendship of the Lord. So yes, you can try to see for you what there might be some verse or some description of the Supreme Lord, and you just are stimulated. You can feel it in your body, literally. Either you're feeling, like pins and needles flashing through your body or something like that. Um, this past week with our spiritual master Dave Nitya Maharaj, he was describing Uddhava, speaking about how merciful Hare Krishna. Ananda Das Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Um, he was describing Uddhava. He became ecstatic by remembering how merciful the Lord is. If, he showed special mercy to Putana. And so there's always something that can stimulate these ecstatic symptoms. So do you have any fond verse or description of the Lord that stimulates uh, this remembrance of the Lord? Mhm. Okay. Oh, Marge, we're speaking about the eight ecstatic symptoms and how King Bharat is experiencing that. And I don't know if you maybe could share with us. Oh, okay. Thank you. Ravinder, can you speak on the mic so they can hear you? Just yeah, so that they can hear you. There's two.
There's one pastime that you reminded me of where His Holiness Devamrita Swami describes how he was sitting in Atlanta when Srila Prabhupada came to speak. And I actually heard this lecture not so long ago. It's only maybe 4 minutes long, 3, 4 minutes long. And Prabhupada comes in and he says, "Oh, so I've been traveling here, traveling there." And he says, "I see that your temple is the best." And all the devotees are, "Jai Prabhupada." And then he goes on to explain how to take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that's all that's all he says. And he says, you take shelter of, he says, Parama Karuna Ghora Natai, that these two lords, they're most merciful. And if you take shelter of them, then you just become happy, and you hear his voice very clearly start to falter. And I heard His Holiness Devamurti Swami, he was saying that he was sitting like the distance that we're sitting, and he could actually see the tears shooting from his eyes like water from a syringe. So, I was just reminded when you were talking about it that you see the faltering of the voice, the tears, and the.
Thank you.
Actually,
Yeah. So so thank you. For that remembrance. Yeah, that that's also a very nice remembrance of Prabhupada manifesting some of these ecstatic symptoms. Uh, mm, I don't know. Anyone know? Do you know a pastime of Prabhupada or devotee, Chaitanya Charitamrita, manifesting, showing us the prayojana? This is the goal. We want to actually experience this love. The goal isn't to exhibit it like who's this? There's one devotee. This, I think, was Haridas Thakur. He was he was known as I don't know, the Nataraj or something, and he could dance like a snake. And Haridas Thakur entered into that assembly, and he was dancing very ecstatically. And so the Nataraj, stepped aside, letting Haridas Thakur, continue dancing ecstatically for the Lord. And he was showing these symptoms. And then he stopped, and then one imposter, Sahaja, he came and imitated Haridas Thakur, rolling in the Natara, just kicked him, and he just ran away. Um, so just to, basically kick out the imposter, and they asked him, why did you not kick Haridas Thakur? And he said, well, that was actually genuine manifestation of love of Krishna. And then this one, he could see right through this imposter that, this is he's just wanting to do this for name and fame. So, so exhibition of the eight ecstatic symptoms, that's not really the goal. They are a result of the goal, which is experiencing love of Krishna, having attained Krishna prema. So, yes, devotees, great devotees, experienced devotees in our movement, very rarely you'll see this, and they try to keep it under control and keep it under wraps. But sometimes you will see it, and when you do see it, it makes an indelible impression on the heart. Because really what you're seeing is just like how Prabhupada describes these paintings as windows to the spiritual world. So it's almost like these paintings are coming to life. When you see a devotee manifesting these symptoms, um, yes, it's very memorable. So do devotees have any online? Do you have any remembrances of experiencing such or seeing this wonderful mm, manifestation of love of Krishna? I guess. Okay. Uh, it's in the chats. Okay, Yashadev Prabhu in the chat, he said, is the nature of the Hare Krishna mantra that anyone who chants it immediately develops his loving ecstasy for Krishna. That's from CC Adi 783. So it's the nature of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So it's just inherent that when you chant, you do manifest these ecstatic symptoms. Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else on that, we'll end. Anything else from you? Okay. Maharaj, any final words? Hare Krishna. Yes. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Taigo Pramanande. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Ki jai.